yesterday said, I'll use his words rather than mine, that McGahn was a strong witness for the president. The president encouraged him to testify, is happy that he did, is quite secure that there is nothing in the testimony that will hurt the president.
Don McGahn's a really good guy, been with me for a long time, privately before this.
Any concern about what he said to the Mueller?
No, not at all.
Well, White House counsel Don McGahn leaving. The president tweeting out this morning, I'm very excited about the person who will be taking the place of Don McGahn as the White House counsel. I liked Don, but he was not responsible for me not firing Bob Mueller or Jeff Sessions. So much fake reporting and fake news. Well, about Attorney General Sessions, in an interview late today in the Oval Office with Bloomberg, the president said this. President Donald Trump said Attorney General Jeff Sessions' job is safe, at least until the midterm elections in November. Quote, I just would love to have him do a great job, Trump said Thursday. Asked if he'd keep Sessions beyond November, he declined to comment. Other headlines out of that interview, he said very close to a deal with Canada, may pull the U.S. out of the World Trade Organization. We've heard that before. He said it today. Considering a capital gains tax break by issuing a regulation that would index gains to inflation. Said he doesn't regret appointing Jerome Powell as Federal Reserve Chairman, even after he criticized him, and said Alan Weisselberg, the CFO of the Trump Organization, did not betray him when he agreed to cooperate with prosecutors in their investigation into Michael Cohen. He knows that because he talked to Weisselberg. There you go. Let's bring in our panel. Byron York, chief political correspondent of the Washington Examiner. Leslie Marshall, syndicated talk radio host, and Tom Bevin, Real Clear Politics co-founder and president. Byron, out of all of that, what did you take as most important?
Well, on Jeff Sessions, maybe it's time for him to resign just to create a little mischief. There's been a real change on the Sessions story because of a change in the Senate that we've seen. Up until now, Sessions' old Republican colleagues in the Senate, especially on the Judiciary Committee, have basically told the president, if you fire the Attorney General, a new one will have to be confirmed by us, and we just don't have time, so don't do it. But this week we saw Lindsey Graham, member of the Judiciary Committee, saying, look, this is a dysfunctional relationship between the president and the Attorney General, and it really needs to change. So I think that basically Trump has a green light to do this after the midterms.
To that point, Leslie, Politico has a story out today saying that the president personally lobbying these senators to flip on Sessions. If Sessions' recusal was his original sin, President Trump has come to resent him for other reasons, griping to aides and lawmakers that the Attorney General doesn't have the Ivy League pedigree the president prefers, that he can't stand his Southern accent, and that Sessions isn't a capable defender of the president on television, in part because he, quote, talks like he has marbles in his mouth, the president has told aides. That's Politico reporting that.
I would believe that. I mean, it seems like, the president's pretty, finicky and fickle when it comes to individuals. Sadly, the president forgets, speaking about Lindsey Graham said that if, Sessions should leave, and then what are we going to have? We're going to have somebody that's loyal to the president, but it's going to protect Mueller. I don't think that the president understands that the loyalty for the Attorney General is to the Constitution and not to him. He doesn't grasp this. And whoever were to take the place after November, because I think Sessions certainly will be gone, it's clear after what the president said in this interview that the individual I don't think anybody's going to be happy with unless they are leaning toward politics as opposed to the law and the Constitution, and that is the role of the Attorney General.
Understood. That is the role, but if you look back at past Attorney Generals, there has been a lean towards the president's wishes. For example, Eric Holder and others.
Yeah, and I think that's wrong. I really do. I mean, I think, as symbolic as it is, there is a reason why Lady Justice is blinded. There is a reason the scales are supposed to be balanced, because if you truly are doing that job the way it is meant to be done, the way the framers of our Constitution, our government had it in the originally and now, you are supposed to be dedicated to the Constitution and not the president. And even Jeff Sessions is saying that. That's where his loyalty is supposed to lie.
Tom.
Yeah, look, I think Jeff Sessions, there's a deep rift, as Lindsey Graham said, between it's become personal. Trump vents about him constantly on Twitter. Doesn't think he's doing what he needs to be doing in terms of the investigation. And it all started with the recusal. He thought he shouldn't have done it, and really left him exposed. So I think Sessions, his days are numbered. I think Trump is smart to not do it before the election. That would cause a whole basket of issues and bad news coverage and all the rest. But I think think his days are numbered, certainly after November.
Another target is Bruce Ohr, who is still at the Justice Department. The tweet number 9 here on Nellie Ohr, his wife. Wow, Nellie Ohr, Bruce Ohr's wife, is a Russia expert, fluent in Russia. She worked for Fusion GPS, where she was paid a lot. Collusion. Bruce was a boss at the Department of Justice and is unbelievably still there. Here is Representative Jim Jordan on this.
Bruce Ohr, senior official at the Justice Department's wife, was working for the firm hired by the Clintons to put together the dossier. And we know the dossier was the key to all of this. And Bruce Ohr, Peter Strzok told us in the hearing 5 weeks ago, Martha, Bruce Ohr is the guy who funneled parts of the dossier to the FBI. When they went to the court, the FBI knew 3 important things, and they didn't disclose this to the court. They knew the Ohr's involvement in production of the dossier. They knew that Christopher Steele had this extreme bias against the president, and they knew who paid for the dossier.
Byron, where's this going?
Well, the president's really deep in the weeds of this investigation. One of the things we learned when Bruce Ohr testified behind closed doors, we learned that knowledge of the dossier went farther than we thought in the Justice Department and in the FBI, because Bruce Ohr told various people about it, and we also know that Bruce Ohr still has a job, and clearly the president is extremely frustrated by that.
Just to shorthand it, I mean, the allegation here is that Bruce Ohr was the funnel by which the dossier gets to the FBI through his wife at Fusion GPS. And that's the shorthand.
Yeah, but this is not the only reason that we have an investigation. If nothing else, one thing the dossier did get correct was that Russia meddled, and probably still is and will unfortunately be meddling unless we do something about it, in our elections. And that is one of the 3 prongs, if you will, that Mueller is tasked with investigating as the special counsel.
Tom?
Look,
You think how about this? Do you think that what do you think Mueller is thinking now? Does he put out some interim thing? Is he holding off past the midterms? Does this get to a conclusion or some indication of a conclusion before November 6th?
I don't think so, but I could be wrong. I mean, obviously, nobody knows what Bob Mueller's thinking except Bob Mueller. But we're now within that sort of range, 70 days and counting down to an election. If Mueller sort of hews to tradition and standard, he would not issue a report.
Well, especially after what Comey did.
Correct. I don't think. Look, I think Mueller, given the fact, because of all the controversy and conflict surrounding, he doesn't want to have any more further allegations that he's trying to manipulate or play politics with this investigation.
We shall see. All sides. Next up, the midterms and the rise of progressives.
I'm not an Albany insider like Governor Cuomo, but I think that experience doesn't mean that much if you're not actually good at governing.
My opponent lives in the world of fiction. I live in the world of fact. Let's just do a few facts, okay? The subway system is owned by New York City. The subway
MTA has
system
been controlled by the state since 1965.
Can you stop interrupting? Can you stop interrupting?
Can you stop lying?
Yeah, as soon as you do.
The back and forth there. New York Governor Cuomo, actress Cynthia Nixon, who's challenging him. She's still a long shot. Real Clear Politics has her way back in latest polls. But if you talk to New Yorkers and you talk to people who follow this race, they looked at that debate, Leslie, and said, man, it looks like the establishment's having a tough time, or at least it got a little bumpy there with a progressive challenger.
This is what kills me about my party as a Democrat. Have we learned nothing from 2016? One of the things that I blame Bernie Sanders supporters who did not come out and vote because they hated Hillary so much for Donald Trump being our president. And we're seeing a repeat, in a sense, with this. If we're going to have a blue wave, a blue tsunami, a blue whatever you want to call it, you don't challenge the seats that are solid. Cuomo has a solid chance to be governor again, and this is not where there should not be division within our party. We should be going to try and flip seats in districts that can be flipped to get control of the House and the Senate.
But Tom, it does sound like there's a little concern in a number of different races about this rise of progressivism.
Sure, absolutely. And I think you saw Cuomo's aggression last night shows that he is concerned, and he probably should be more concerned after last night, because I thought Cynthia Nixon got the better of him in some of those exchanges. You mentioned the polls. The last poll in this race was taken in July. So we've had a full month, and I'm eager to see what the numbers will be, especially post-debate. The election, the primary is on the 13th of September, so we got about 2 weeks left. But this could be a lot closer than people expect. I'm not saying she's going to win, but I think it might be a lot closer than people expect.
Clearly, that's where the energy in the Democratic Party is. I mean, it's definitive.
Absolutely. But I'll stop lying as soon as you do. Oh, what a terrible line. But this is the Hillary-Bernie fight continuing with a different cast characters, and it's been going on the whole time. And if all of us weren't so obsessed with Donald Trump every single day, this would be a huge ongoing story. It hasn't stopped.
By the way, there are a lot of those stories. The economy, North Korea. We try to cover them all here on Special Report. Tom, we're going to ask panelists all the way to the midterms what race they're following, at least the race they're following now. Your choice.
Florida Senate, which wasn't a race that Democrats were worried about initially, but Bill Nelson has really been struggling down there. Rick Scott's running ahead in the latest polls. And the interesting question is, what does last Tuesday's primary elections for governor, how does that affect this Senate race? Democrats think that Andrew Gillum is going to energize African Americans, minority voters. That's going to benefit Bill Nelson in the Senate race. Republicans think actually that DeSantis is going to energize Trump voters, much more so than Putnam would have. So it'll be interesting to see how that race plays out. But it is definitely a race to keep an eye on.
As you look at the balance of power in the House, we put this up all the time. Democrats need 23 seats to take control of the House. The going conventional wisdom is that they're going to get there. But, you know, it's not a done deal as of yet. Your pick here.
49th district in my state where I live of California. I'm not a fan of Darrell Issa. I'm glad that he's going. And it's Mike Levin against Diane Harkey. Levin is the Democrat. This is an area that is one of the red pockets of the state of California, a very blue state. This includes La Jolla, part of San Diego. This has been a changing demographic. I think this is one seat that certainly could flip in favor of Democrats. And it'll be interesting because if that happens, we're going to see that happening in the OC and other areas in Sacramento and San Diego throughout the state of California.
Yeah, California is one of the risky places for Republicans this cycle, especially in the House. All right, Byron, wrap it up here.
North Dakota Senate. The Republicans have been handicapped by having such a tiny majority in the Senate, 51-49. If they're going to make it any bigger, North Dakota is probably their best chance to do it. The most important fact in the race between Heidi Heitkamp and Kevin Cramer is that Donald Trump won North Dakota by 36 points. And Heidi Heitkamp, a first-termer, Kevin Cramer, because North Dakota is so small in population, they both were elected statewide. So this is the one where Republicans really hope they can pick up a seat.
All right, panel, thank you very much. We'll be following all those races.